So in this video, I want to talk about the third skill that we are in our biology, science, and engineering practices, which is planning and carrying out biological investigations. So from the rubric, if you click on that, you can see the benchmark and the things you need to do in order to get a good grade uh, are you have to design an investigation where you identify and explain the variables that you are changing and measuring and controlling, right? So, what exactly are you manipulating in your experiment? How are you manipulating that variable? What exactly are you measuring to see what the effect of that change was? What is your dependent variable and how do you measure that? And finally, what are some of the things you're trying to maintain constant so that you can be sure that what you do with your independent variable is what's causing the effect on the dependent variable? Do you have basically a control experiment? Now, if you want to get a good grade, that procedure has to be sufficiently organized with a description that allows you to uh, anybody else that's going to do the experiment to replicate exactly what you've done. I usually tell my students that a good rule of thumb is try to pretend that you're writing this for someone who's two grade levels below yours, and they should still be able to repeat what you did and understand what they're doing and get the same results that you got. Your experiment should also describe and list all the instruments and measurements that will be taken. So don't just say what where measurements are going to be taken, but how those measurements are actually taken and what tools are used. And instead of just listing the tools, describe the tools so that we know exactly what tool was used. So instead of saying a scale, something like an electronic scale with 3 digits of precision. Now I know exactly what you're kind of using, right? The methods that you design actually need to be able to test the hypothesis that you're trying to test. So it needs to be a method that's relevant and aligned with the objectives of your design. So if your method can't test your variable, that's not going to be okay. And you should have some feature to increase the reliability of your data by, for example, increasing trials and do so in a reasonable range, right? Because sometimes it's really hard to repeat it too many times, but it has to be a reasonable amount of trials so that you can be confident that there's not something random happening or that it didn't happen a one random error in that one time that you tried. You should try to use the best tools you have available, and if possible, include safety procedures. Last but not least, and again with this idea of using the best tools available, try to be as precise as possible, and that usually comes in with picking the best tools. But your procedure should evaluate how precise your data is, and you should perhaps even acknowledge limits that you have in your procedure because of the tools that you're limited to. But you should try to use the best tools you have available so you can trust your analysis. That is how you do a good experiment. Now, on the lab report resources that I posted on the source on our page, there's 3 key resources that can help you design investigation. One of them is called the Investigation Planning Guide, where here you can actually write it's basically a note catcher that helps you think about exactly what I need to do in order to get a good result, right? So you go from here, you fill this out, and then you transfer this into your actual procedure and materials list. There's also a guide on writing good procedures with bullets and the different things that you're supposed to include, where this is breaking down into way more detail than I'm saying it to you right now. And I have a lab report example. Actually, there's 2 in there where it actually shows you the material list and the procedure list, which follow the guidelines of that how to write good procedures, and even have notes, comments on the side attached to each part, which explain what am I trying to do in there. So here, for example, you see it says M4. That is referring to the rubric that I use in order to grade lab reports. And also, as you can see, there's even videos where I break this down in further detail if you need further support. So I recommend you watch those videos if you need more help. All right. So that's how you write a good procedure. Make sure you hit those benchmarks so you can get your mastery of this skill.